Olá a todos, boa tarde, sejam todos bem-vindos. São, nesse momento, 17 horas e 41 minutos. Estamos nos preparando aqui para o lançamento daqui a pouco da Cygnus, né? Cygnus está caminhando para a Estação Espacial Internacional com vários suprimentos, experiências, e a gente está aqui acompanhando e já vamos aqui já fazer a mudança já para a câmera aqui, para a gente ver aqui como é que está aqui já, sabe? Para você que está chegando aí, meu boa tarde, sejam bem-vindos. Aqui a gente já está assistindo o briefing de lançamento e a gente vai acompanhar aqui, ok? Vamos lá, já vamos abrir aqui o áudio aqui. Bom, daqui a pouco a gente está de volta.
Final load of cargo at the 24-hour mark right before liftoff, and that capability allows the time-sensitive payloads to get loaded on the spacecraft as late as possible, so we can shorten the time frame from delivery to us to delivery to the International Space Station. We also continue to support NASA's efforts with the international partners, especially with the Japanese Space Agency, JAXA. As Dr. Costello pointed out, we have two experiments flying on Cygnus. We actually hosted those experiments and the preparation for those at the Eastern Virginia Medical School in Norfolk, Virginia. And it's really been a great experience for our team to work with JAXA on coordinating these missions halfway around the world. Also on this mission, we'll be flying a secondary payload called PURPLE, or Prototype Infrared Payload, where teams from across Northrop Grumman work closely with the Space Development Agency to launch this experimental mission. Once it arrives at the space station, the prototype sensor will collect infrared data that'll help in the development of algorithms for the next generation of satellite tracking capabilities. The data from PURPLE will also be able to shape studies at government agencies and universities studying environmental impacts, as the technology can be used to study volcanoes and forest fires. And the PURPLE contract also allows us to demonstrate Northrop Grumman's rapid prototyping capability and the responsiveness to our customers. Finally, it's become a company tradition to name each Cygnus after an individual who has played a significant role in human spaceflight. We are honored to name this mission in honor of Ellison Onizuka, the first Asian American astronaut to reach space. Ellison was selected to become a NASA astronaut in 1978 after a long and successful career as a test pilot for the Air Force. He flew his first mission to space in 1985, and in 1986, Ellison and his crew tragically lost their lives during the launch of the Space Shuttle Challenger. He made the ultimate sacrifice in service to human exploration. Ellison was born in Hawaii and dreamed about flying to the stars that he could see from his home on the island. And he was an inspiration for Asian American community and for multiple generations to explore new horizons. He once said, "Every generation has the obligation to free men's minds for a look at new worlds, to look out from a higher plateau than the last generation." And you can find these words of wisdom on the last page of a U.S. passport, encouraging all of us to look for new discoveries and to dream big. The SS Ellison Onizuka will serve as a shining example that racial barriers and glass ceilings are meant to be shattered so that all can succeed. I'm looking forward to executing our Sweet 16 mission tomorrow in support of NASA and our commercial partners as we continue the journey in human space exploration. And with that, I'll hand it over to Kurt Everly, who leads our Antares rocket program. Kurt?
1 hour, 16 minutes, just about.
Thank you, Frank.
Seconds.
I'm really excited to be here to talk about another Antares Cygnus launch here from Wallops Island. And first, I'd like to thank our integration team here at Wallops. We have about 60 folks who work here permanently in the Wallops area, and they work very hard getting these rockets ready for launch. And then the Cygnus folks come down with Cygnus, and then we spend time integrating them. So I'd just like to thank them, and I would like to thank our engineers who come in from Chandler, Arizona, and from Dulles, Virginia, and who are here and sit on console and make sure that everything is ready and that the rocket is working well and ready for launch. I'd also like to thank the Virginia Space team that maintains Pad 0A and gets it ready for us and operates it and makes sure that we're ready to proceed for a smooth countdown. And then finally, the Wallops Range folks, appreciate all their cooperation and coordination and their support in managing this mission. I'll quickly recap recent events. So last Thursday we had our mission dress rehearsal. We played green cards and we exercised the communication paths and exercised the team in the decision-making process. On Friday, we rolled Antares with Cygnus out to the launch pad and rotated it to vertical, as you see here behind me. On Saturday, we did our combined systems test, which is basically a test of all the interfaces between the rocket, the spacecraft, and the range and the spaceport. That was successful, and we were able to take most of Sunday off. Hang on. So Sunday ended up being a rest day for our team, and that brings us to today. We completed the launch readiness review this morning, and we have no leans to the launch coming out of the LRR. So that's good news. The weather report looks favorable for tomorrow, and I think Brittany will get more into that. So just what's going to happen later today, we've got the L-24-hour cargo load that's going to happen at 5:56 p.m. this afternoon. After that, Cygnus will close up the hatch of the Cygnus, and then we'll put the pop top of the fairing back on. And then we'll be ready to rotate up to vertical around 5 a.m. tomorrow morning. We'll do final arming and be ready to start the countdown 5 hours before liftoff. So about 12:56 p.m. is when we'll open the checklist, and we'll start counting down. About 1.5 hours before launch, we'll start loading the tanks with propellants. Before then, you might see some venting of liquid oxygen vapor as we chill down the cross-country lines leading up to the launch pad. We ignite the two main engines of the first stage at L-0, and we do a health check at an intermediate power setting. And when we pass that health check, then we throttle up to 100%. We will rock back the transporter erector launcher, which also serves as our umbilical tower, and we will release the hold down clamps at the base of the rocket. And about 2.7 seconds, L plus 2.7 seconds, we will have liftoff. First stage burns for 200 seconds, after which we have a 50-second coast period during which we separate the first stage, the fairing, and the inner stage. Second stage will then ignite and burn for about 2.5 minutes, after which we're in orbit. We do a 2-minute settling period, and then we'll separate Cygnus, and they're on their way. Thank you all for being here, and we look forward to a good launch tomorrow. And now I'll turn it over to Brittany McKinley, our Wallops Range Antares Program Manager. Brittany?
Thanks, Kurt. Good afternoon, everyone. On behalf of Wallops, we are proud to partner with NASA's ISS office, Northrop Grumman, and Virginia Space to deliver this cargo to station. The Wallops team is ready to support the CRS-16 mission with the launch of Antares and the Cygnus spacecraft. All of our range testing is complete, configurations have been locked in, and range clearances are in place. In addition to our team local here at Wallops, we also have another team that's been deployed to our Bermuda tracking station. They've spent the past 2 weeks bringing up all of our systems, checking them out, running end-to-end tests with us here at Wallops, and I'm happy to report that all systems are up and running. I also want to send out a thank you to the local community for all their support on these missions. It's vital in making sure that the launch team comes in and all the visitors coming in to view the launches have a safe and enjoyable experience. So thank you. Now it's time for the all-important weather report, and I do have good news for you on that front. We go to the weather slide. So for tomorrow, we're only tracking one item of concern, and that's our cumulus cloud rule, and our POV, or probability of violation for launch, is only at 20%, so that's great news. So we'll be keeping an eye on those, but the better way to phrase it is we have an 80% chance of launch tomorrow. If for any reason we need to rely on our backup days, again, good weather for this week, tracking some clouds, and our worst case is only getting us up to a 30% POV, so looking good. In closing, the Wallops Range is green, and we are looking forward to a beautiful launch Tuesday evening, and thank you for following along.
NLC Prop 3.
Great. Thank you, Brittany, and all of our other experts and speakers today. Now we'll move on to the question and answer portion of our briefing today. As a reminder, you can send us your questions using the hashtag #AskNASA on social media, and reporters can email their questions directly to Greyhouse Paloma. So let's kick it off. Well, the first question goes to Joel Montalbano. It's from Jeff Faust of Space News, who asks, what level of insight does NASA have into the Russian invasion of the MLM's unintended thruster firings after its July 29th docking? And when is that investigation expected to conclude?
So thank you, Jeff. You know, we're working with our Russian colleagues. As you can imagine, we talk to them on a regular basis. And so multiple times during the week, we have communication between the flight control and the flight control center, between the mission management team chair and her Russian colleague. Also, obviously, the flight controllers are talking. So the Russians are in the process of defining how they're going to move forward with this commission. We have a team that I put together on the U.S. side that will do a similar thing. As far as a timeline, probably just a little too early to tell that. We're working together to kind of lay that out. But I would say probably in the next couple weeks or so, 2-3 weeks, we'll have a timeline, and then I can probably better answer that question.
Great. Thanks, Joel. Another question. This one's from social media. Michelle from Twitter asks, why does the larger door used for cargo deliveries require berthing with the Canada arm and not allow for automated docking?
So I'll take that one. You know, what we're set up is, you know, the docking, as you said, is a smaller diameter hatch. The berthing allows us to bring larger type payloads, both replacement units for our systems hardware as well as science hardware in and out. And so it's just a different capability we have. As you know, we have 2 berthing ports and 2 docking ports. And so we have opportunities for either berthing or a docking vehicle. Generally, the berthing vehicles come up uncrewed. And so whereas our docking or our crewed vehicles are coming up as docking vehicles. I think I answered your question. If not, ask again.
That's great. You did. Thank you. We'll go. This question is for Kurt Eberly from Jeff Faust of Space News. What is the status of efforts by Northrop Grumman to sell Antares launches for customers other than the NASA CRS program? Can Antares compete against efforts by new entrants to develop vehicles with similar payload capabilities?
Yeah, hi Jeff. We are continuing to pursue sales of Antares for non-CRS missions. We're on ramp to NLS-2, and we're talking to some other customers as well. So we think we have some real capability for this vehicle. It's extremely reliable. We're able to launch on the date that we plan to launch. We've got a great track record, and I think things are going very well. So we're hopeful that we can make some sales, and we're going after other missions, absolutely. And you know, new entrants, everything looks very rosy on paper, and by the time you know the new entrants get to launch, we'll see where they end up. But you know, it's a difficult business, and we don't minimize that or take it for granted at all. So yeah, we continue to market the vehicle, and we think we've got some real capability that could be attractive to other users. Absolutely.
Thank you, Kurt. We also have a question from social media from WYSIWYG on Twitter asking how best to view the launch over Delaware. So I'll point out that we have a viewing visibility map available on nasa.gov/Northrop Grumman and nasa.gov/Wallops. And we encourage you to take a look at those maps. The Wallops Visitor Center grounds are closed for guest viewing this time because of the rise in COVID cases in the Wallops area, and we want to ensure everybody stays safe. So we encourage you to join us by viewing online. NASA TV coverage will begin at 5:30 p.m. Eastern Time tomorrow. Okay, so next question is a science question, so we'll go to Dr. Costello. Elizabeth Rain of Sci-Fi Wire has a question about the 4-bed CO2 scrubber. How do you see this technology improving the reliability of CO2 removal systems in future spacecraft?
And LC,
Well, Elizabeth, that's a great question, and it's absolutely the design objective of this hardware is to get it on place on orbit to test not only smaller, more compact means of scrubbing the carbon dioxide from the atmosphere, but also investing in that reliability, making sure that it can run autonomously for our future exploration class missions, which may take up to a year each way just to get the crew to the surface of Mars.
Thanks, Kurt. We have another science question for Dr. Costello. How are you using the space station for research or technology demonstrations to prepare for NASA's Artemis missions to the moon?
Again, that one ties directly into some of the ECLIS investigations, technology demonstration advancement that we're doing for those systems. The ECLIS systems, or environmental control and life support systems on space station, have done us great over the past years, but now we're looking at ways to make them, again, more compact, more reliable to install in those distant locations, whether that's installation in a lunar gateway outpost or on the lunar surface or in a Mars transport vehicle. We're looking at advancing the technologies for this from lower technology levels to higher, and as we build those systems up, we'll be able to go further in our exploration of the solar system. Additionally, a lot of the science you heard relates to human research on board space station. We know microgravity exposure affects the human body in many different ways, and our human research program is constantly working to reduce the overall risk to our crew members as we explore throughout the solar system.
Thank you, Dr. Costello. Our next question comes from social for Frank Demaro. Frank, can you provide a comparison to allow us to know how much cargo Cygnus actually carry up? Could it fill a box truck, a small van, a school, maybe another form of comparison you have in mind?
Yeah, thank you for the question. Good way to think about it. It's probably like a small U-Haul box truck is probably a good way to think about it. The amount of cargo that we can fit in Cygnus with the average density that we get from the NASA cargo team is about 82. This mission will be 8,200 pounds of cargo, so it is a lot of pressurized cargo in there. So if you think about a moving truck, a medium-sized moving truck, that's how much cargo we can fit in there. It's the other thing we have to keep in mind is that within the cargo module, not only do we have the cargo, but we have the support structure to hold the cargo in place, and we also have some environmental controls to be able to control the temperature and the pressure within the cargo module, so that we can provide really it's a pressurized space when we're attached to the space station. But we also need to provide the right environment for the science payloads that fly up there. So it's like a moving truck, but with some really high-end controls in there.
Great, thank you for that. The next question is for Brittany. It's a rare summer launch for Aries. How have you gotten the word out to people to ensure boats and planes don't interrupt the launch?
That's a good one. So in the weeks leading up to launch, we issue out, as our first step, Note Mars and NOTAMs, or Notice to Mariners and Notice to Airmen. That comes out of our test director's office. In addition to that, we have a really good working relationship in the local community between the test directors and our surveillance coordination officer, so they help to get the word out. But we also rely heavily on those community relationships to get the word out and bring everybody together to help us get the launch off. As you've heard with Antares, it's only a 5-minute window. So if we have to spend too much time trying to clear our downrange hazard areas or uprange hazard areas, it could be problematic. So we do rely heavily on the community to help us achieve these launches.
Great, thank you. We look forward to everybody having a good launch, and for those of you viewing, help us getting the word out to stay out of the box so we can have a good launch. Related question, this one for Kurt, is if we don't launch tomorrow, what are our future launch opportunities?
Yes, so tomorrow's primary day. The day after is a viable launch day. And so the launch opportunity is about 23.5 minutes earlier on Wednesday. The weather looks pretty good. You saw on Brittany's slide there, slightly increased POV up from 20% to 30%, but Wednesday looks very good as a launch day. We are able to stand down from a launch on Tuesday and be ready to launch again on Wednesday. After that, Thursday, we would probably stand down and give NASA an opportunity to refresh the cargo if they need to do that, and then we'd be back for another attempt on Friday. And again, each day we would have the launch time going about 23.5 minutes earlier as that orbit plane precesses around the Earth. And we want to launch right into that orbit plane that the ISS is in to give Cygnus, the right path to rendezvous with the space station.
Great, thanks for that. And I think the next question is for Joel Montalbano, comes from Twitter. Will an ISS reboost be performed this mission with the Cygnus craft?
And so we're planning to do a reboost on the next mission. So we won't be doing one with this mission, but we're working with our Northrop Grumman partners to do a reboost with NG-17.
Okay, thank you for that. And probably the next question is for Dr. Costello. Why do some of the experiments that are sent up on Cygnus also go back into Cygnus to burn up and on deorbit and re-entry?
Thank you for the question. Apparently, I think you're referencing the CRAPE investigation. And in this case, the Kentucky Reentry Probe investigation is actually looking at heat shield materials and how well they do on small capsules that are stored within the Cygnus vehicle. And then as the Cygnus vehicle burns up on reentry, they're released into the upper atmosphere. So we can collect data on orbital reentry speed performance of these new heat shield materials. So again, that's the CRAPE investigation from the University of Kentucky.
Great, and people can find more information about all of the science investigations, both at nasa.gov/Northrop Grumman for this specific mission and nasa.gov/ISS-science for all of the experiments being conducted on the space station. The next question is for Frank DeMauro. Frank, you've talked a lot about the enhancements you've made to Cygnus, giving NASA more options for cargo resupply missions. What other capabilities are you experimenting with down the road for Cygnus?
Yeah, thanks for that question. So the first thing I'll point out is something Joel just mentioned a bit ago. On NG-17, we'll be adding a capability to more precisely direct the thrust of our large engine that gets used to raise the orbit of Cygnus to meet up with the ISS. And in future missions, it will have the capability to be able to reboost the ISS while we're attached to the space station. That enhancement, normally that thruster is fixed in how it's pointed on the ground, and then once in orbit, that's the direction it's fixed in is how we're going to thrust. On NG-17 and beyond, we'll be able to direct that thrust a little bit more precisely, and so we can move that thrust closer to the center of gravity of the International Space Station, and by doing that, the space station has to use less fuel to correct for any disturbances that Cygnus might cause, and more energy goes into reboosting the station and less into attitude control maneuvers. Other things we're looking at are things we've shown before, where the ability for us to stay on the station longer periods of time. Right now, we stay on the station about 3 to 4 months at a time. And we've done experiments before to show that we can stay on orbit for about a year, and so that's another capability that we can provide. And then, of course, we're using what we're learning on Cygnus to support the development of other modules that we're putting further out into space, like the HALO module, the Habitat Logistics Outpost for the Lunar Gateway. So the more times we fly Cygnus, the more we learn about its capabilities and the more confidence we get in it, and we continue to add new capabilities for missions in the future. And we'll continue to do that to make sure Cygnus is as flexible and usable a spacecraft for NASA as possible.
LC prop lead, low flow, LC
Great,
loading.
thanks, Frank. I
verified.
think this is a related question from David Curley of the Discovery Channel. In awarding the HLS contract, NASA talked about the importance of space trucking, cargo flights to the moon and beyond. Can you speak to the importance and size of this business in the future?
Sure. Yeah. There's a program out there called the Gateway Logistics Program with NASA, similar to what we do for the ISS, where we deliver cargo to the ISS. NASA is going to need cargo delivery and science and supplies delivered out to the areas around the moon and to the gateway. And that is, as NASA expands on our move towards the moon and eventually towards Mars, those logistics services are going to become critical. We think the Cygnus vehicle has a lot of the building blocks for not only for people to live around the moon, like in Halo, but for a Cygnus-like vehicle to be able to provide those logistics and cargo deliveries out to the moon, just like we do now to the ISS, just further out. So as long as NASA's pushing towards having people living and working around the moon and eventually to Mars, those logistics services are going to become more and more important because it is so far away. And we need to make sure that the crew has enough supplies to last for even longer periods of time than they do on the ISS. So it's a critical part of Artemis and beyond, and we're looking forward to playing an important role in that in the future.
Great. One more for Dr. Kirk Costello. I think somebody wanted to catch the name again of the slime that is going to be part of the ESA blob investigation.
Again, that one is the Physarum polycephalum.
Nicely done. Maybe they just wanted to tongue tie you up. Okay, so I think our last question, this one goes to Kurt Eberly. And how have you adjusted or made adjustments for COVID in your launch preparations?
Yeah, great question. First of all, the number one priority here at Northrop Grumman is the safety of our workforce and our contractors and associated partners that have to help us get ready to launch one of these missions. So we have some strict protocols that we put in place. These involve personal protective equipment that our employees wear. We also have gone through an operations review for all of our operations to look for how to socially distance as many of them as we can, and for those that we can't be socially distanced for, how do we protect our workforce through additional PPE. And so that has helped us get through the past year. We've done 2 launches, NG-14 and 15, within the last year, both of them successful. We've been able to keep our workforce safe and healthy throughout. And then, coming up to launch day, when we go on console, working with the Wallops Range, we do space out our console team members more than in the past. And so we're keeping those practices. We know that the case count is back up. That's unfortunate, but we're ready to go and repeat those same protocols that we put in place for the last 2 missions for this mission, and we are confident that we can keep our workforce safe by following those practices.
Okay, great. I know I said that was the last question, but we got one more breaking question. This one for Joel Montalbano. This comes from Ben Evans on Twitter, who asks, where in the space station will the IROSA modification kit be stored after its arrival, and why is it being installed so early when the solar array won't arrive until next year?
Good question. I don't know exactly where we're going to install it. We can find out and we'll get back to you. The reason we want to install it is you always want to get stuff, once you have it on orbit, you want to get it installed and working and set up as quickly as you can in case you run into problems. So there's not a need if we don't get it done this month, or we'll find another time to get it done. But again, you want to get things out there, get them done, make sure everything's working, and then if you have any issues, you have plenty of time before the new solar arrays come up when you need it.
Great, thank you so much. That's all the questions we have for today.
Bem, olá a todos, sejam bem-vindos, ótima tarde. Meu nome é Robson Rodrigues, sou repórter e editor aqui do canal OLHAR SIDERAL e nós estamos assistindo aqui o briefing de lançamento do Foguete Antares, o NG-16, com a carga da Cygnus, que está indo para a ISS, a Estação Espacial Internacional. Nesse lançamento, está subindo, além dos suprimentos corriqueiros que a nave da ISS precisa para sua manutenção, também está subindo vários experimentos importantes para a exploração espacial. Se você é novo aqui no canal, considere se inscrever. Se você está gostando da programação, por favor, deixe o seu like, compartilhe com os amigos e visite nossas redes sociais. No Facebook, Olhar Sideral, e também no Twitter, @Olhar Sideral. Nosso agradecimento todo especial também à Itanet, a maior rede de internet da região norte e noroeste fluminense do estado do Rio de Janeiro, e também da Inusitec, Inovações e Tecnologia.
illuminated. FSO.
Enabled and illuminated.
We are still working a couple of issues here. Range is continue monitor and to a potential boat fouler. We're also taking a look at our helium pressure, source pressure again. That discussion is occurring at the moment. And lost.
Good afternoon from the International Space Station Flight Control Room. This is Mission Control Houston bringing you live coverage today of the launch of Northrop Grumman's 16th cargo resupply mission to the International Space Station. You are looking live at the Mid-Atlantic Regional Spaceport at NASA's Wallops Flight Facility in Wallops Island, Virginia, where an Antares rocket stands ready to launch a Cygnus cargo spacecraft carrying more than 8,200 pounds of research, crew supplies, and hardware to the International Space Station. The launch time today was moved to the back of the launch window after teams detected an apparent helium pressurization valve leak on the vehicle. The issue was quickly resolved and everything is on track for a launch today at 5:01 and 5 seconds p.m. Central Time, 6:01 and 5 seconds p.m. Eastern Time. Fueling for Antares began at 3:45 p.m. Central Time today and now stands ready to send Cygnus to the International Space Station. Currently favorable weather conditions today for launch with mostly sunny skies, and the temperature at the launch site today is 83 degrees Fahrenheit. Each Cygnus spacecraft is named after influential individuals in the world of spaceflight, and the Cygnus spacecraft for this space station resupply mission is dedicated to former NASA astronaut Ellison Onizuka, who they selected in honor of his prominence as the first Asian American astronaut. Onizuka was hired in 1978 in the first class of diverse astronauts, and his first spaceflight was aboard Space Shuttle Discovery in January 1985 for STS-51C. He lost his life aboard the Space Shuttle Challenger in 1986, along with 6 other crew members.
External power on, and FTSB, external power on. LCLX 2, FTS indicate safe, configuration verified. FTS external power nominal. And a copy all, check 367, 368.
Cygnus will arrive to the International Space Station after a 2-day journey on Thursday, August 12th, where it will be installed to the space station's Unity module. NASA astronaut Megan McArthur will use the Canadarm2 robotic arm to capture the Cygnus spacecraft, backed up by Thomas Pesquet of the European Space Agency. After Cygnus capture, controls will be turned over to Mission Control Houston, where ground controllers will send ground commands for the station's arm to rotate and install the cargo spacecraft on the Earth-facing port of the station's Unity module. The Cygnus spacecraft is scheduled to remain at the space station until November, when it will depart the station, disposing of several tons of trash during a fiery re-entry into the Earth's atmosphere.
And FSO, you go to send the FTS receiver arm command for 2 seconds, then remove, and continue check channel when function removed.
This is FSO, arm on my mark. 3, 2, 1, mark, +1, +2, arm removed, check channel continued. FTS arm indication.
LCLX-2, FTS arm indication received.
Teams around the country are working together today to ensure various systems are a go for launch. Northrop Grumman teams in the Antares Launch Control Center in Wallops Island, Virginia, are monitoring systems on the Antares rocket. And once Cygnus separates from the Antares rocket today and reaches its preliminary orbit, controls of the vehicle will be handed over to teams at Northrop Grumman's Mission Control Center in Dulles, Virginia. Teams there are being led by Mission Director Teresa Spinelli. And back in the International Space Station Flight Control Room in Houston, Texas, flight control teams are being led by Flight Director Greg Whitney. Teams here are monitoring systems on the International Space Station, ensuring all systems are a go for Cygnus launch today and arrival to the International Space Station. And so far, all teams are a go for launch today at 5:01 and 5 seconds p.m. Central Time, 6:01 and 5 seconds p.m. Eastern Time. And joining us for today's launch broadcast from Northrop Grumman is Antares System Engineering Program Manager Christina Halona, and she'll be walking us through some of the features and milestones for today's launch. Christina, the launch was moved to the back of the launch window today. Can you explain what the teams detected on the ground and how it was resolved?
Hi, Courtney. Sure. So during our pre-launch checkouts, we detected an anomalous reading at the pad. So our Mid-Atlantic Range Spaceport and Northrop Grumman teams had to troubleshoot the issue out at the pad, which actually required our teams to physically inspect the pad. So after we had previously already cleared out of the pad for safety issues, obviously, so we had to get back out there and check out and make sure everything was up and running and everything was good. And so that actually took a little bit bit longer than expected, so it took us to the tail end of our launch window. So everything looked good, and we're ready to go. Go for launch.
HS1 is go. Okay, we're ready.
Yes, and we're looking live now at the Antares rocket standing ready to launch a Cygnus cargo spacecraft carrying more than 8,200 pounds of research, crew supplies, and hardware to the International Space Station. Christina, can you tell us more about this Antares 230 Plus rocket's capabilities?
Sure. So the Antares 230 Plus vehicle provides substantial payload performance into a variety of low inclination, low Earth and Sun synchronous orbits and interplanetary trajectories. So our Antares has actually been upgraded. Our Stage 1 core, which has a lighter composite structure and an optimized second stage motor. The upgraded Stage 1 core allows the Antares engines to perform at full thrust throughout most of the first stage profile. The 230 Plus vehicle also has a cargo mass flexibility in which the Cygnus mass can be defined no later than 24 hours prior to launch. The Antares 230 Plus vehicle also has the ability to perform late load operations by the unique pop-top fairing as the nose of the vehicle is able to be removed for the late cargo load.
Opening valve ED21 on my mark. 3, 2.
And the vehicle rolled out to the pad Friday, August 6th. It was then rotated horizontal for some late cargo, like you're saying now, and then it was returned to its vertical position where it sits now yesterday. So, Christina, can you walk us through the cargo late loading process and late load capabilities?
Yeah, sure. So as I mentioned before, one of the unique features of the Antares 230 Plus vehicle is that there is the ability to do a late cargo load 24 hours before launch. The vehicle has a pop-top fairing where the nose of the rocket is able to be removed. Northrop Grumman has also built a new specialized ground support equipment that allows us to take the vehicle from vertical, like you see it out the pad, and take it back horizontal, which we did previously, actually last night. So this allows us to drive what we call a mobile clean room right up to the tip of the fairing, where we are able to remove the pop-top fairing and load time-sensitive research experiments and other perishable items that NASA needs to provide 24 hours before launch. And so with all this talk about cargo, the Antares vehicle is carrying approximately a little over 8,200 pounds of cargo to the space station aboard the Cygnus spacecraft today, which is actually our largest resupply to date. So we're very excited about that. And we at Northrop Grumman, we're really proud of our Antares 230 Plus rocket and the Cygnus spacecraft, and we're dedicated to continue to providing the best value to our customer in support of their critical missions.
And just going off of that, Antares and Cygnus have now been part of the chain of resupply for the International Space Station for several years now. How crucial has Northrop Grumman's role been in contributing to that?
So Northrop Grumman has played a critical role in keeping the International Space Station operational since 2013. And this was apparent with NASA awarding Northrop Grumman 2 additional commercial resupply missions to continue to deliver cargo such as food, hardware, science experiments, and other necessities. And Cygnus is unique in its ability to carry away large amounts of pressurized cargo, a critical function for NASA and the crew aboard the ISS. With these additional awarded flights to the orbiting laboratory, Northrop Grumman will provide services to both NASA and our commercial partners to continue to use Cygnus not as just a cargo delivery and disposable vehicle, but also as a platform for science and technology research and development opportunities. And since 2013, Northrop Grumman has been a trusted and reliable partner to NASA, and we look forward to this continued partnership into the future.
And now teams have been running through some pre-launch milestones today, and they'll continue to run through those through launch. Can you tell us a little bit more about the fueling process?
Yeah, so I'll just go through the entire ascent, actually. So when Antares, we'll have a stage 1 ignition at T0, and we'll lift off shortly after. The main engines will burn off for approximately 200 seconds, and that will get us to main engine cutoff, which we call MECO. And then once we get to MECO, we'll go into a short coast right before we separate stage 1 from stage 2, which we call the upper stack portion of Antares. We'll continue to coast a little bit longer, about 30 seconds before fairing separation, and then we'll have an internal separation where the stage 2 flies out of the external upper stack. So once stage 2 is completed of the upper stack, the stage 2 ignites for a 2.5-minute burn that puts Cygnus real close to their orbit. And then Cygnus will coast a little bit to ensure everything is stable. And then Cygnus will be released into the desired orbit. So After Cygnus is released, it will go through comm checks, and then about an hour or so after we separate, Cygnus will release its solar arrays and be on its way to the International Space Station. And I believe you at NASA, you guys also showed the solar array deployment sometime, so you guys all might get to see that again later. But in summary, it takes approximately Cygnus 9 minutes to get to orbit, so it takes some time, but it is pretty fast.
Well, Christina, we're looking forward to welcoming Cygnus aboard the International Space Station, and of course, we'll have you back to join us after launch as well. So do you have any final words before launch today?
No, I don't. Go Antares and go Cygnus.
All right, thanks, Christina. You just heard from Northrop Grumman, our Antares System Engineering Program Manager, Christina Halona. Stay tuned after launch for a post-launch interview with Christina again and an interview with Jeff Arend, NASA's Systems Engineering Integration Office Manager. Again, mostly sunny skies for launch today back at the Mid-Atlantic Regional Spaceport at NASA's Wallops Flight Facility in Virginia, and temperatures are now about 83 degrees Fahrenheit at the pad.
Bom, olá, seja bem-vindo. Meu nome é Robson Rodrigues, sou repórter e editor do canal Olhar Sideral. Para você que está chegando agora, nosso muito obrigado, sejam bem-vindos. Já 18 horas e 43 minutos, né? Na verdade, boa noite. Eu sou repórter, editor e apresentador do canal Olhar Sideral, e hoje nós estamos fazendo a cobertura do lançamento do Foguete Antares, o NG-16, né, com a Cygnus que está indo para a ISS Internacional. Bom, para você que não é inscrito no canal, se você está chegando agora, está conhecendo o canal agora, seja bem-vindo. Se você não é inscrito, por favor, se inscreva, deixe o seu like, comente, isso ajuda o canal a ter relevância.
And of course, it's always exciting for the crew to receive new experiments, but they'll also have some extra goodies arriving. Also flying on Cygnus today are some treats for the crew, just to name a few. The crew will be receiving apples, tomatoes, kiwis, pizza kits, and cheese assortments.
CMD, yeah, you're go to transfer Cygnus to launch mode. In work. Copy and work.
Coming up on 15 minutes from launch today, all systems are still on track for an on-time launch today at 5:01 and 5 seconds p.m. Central Time, 6:01 and 5 seconds p.m. Eastern Time.
Status of trajectory file for launch operation.
LC GNC1, trajectory file does not require an update.
Copy that. We'll check 403. And Ops 1 404 not required today. 405 not required.
Copy LC.
And Core 1 LC, countdown 1.
Yeah, LC, I've got step 394 for you. Fuel level does not require adjustment.
Roger that. Prop 2, step 395, ARM OCCS for no adjustment to fuel level.
And OCCS AC/DC armed. AC/DC confirmed.
Copy. Check 395, 396.
And OCCS configured for no adjustment to fuel level.
Check 397. Admin be advised, step 398 not required. Step 399 not required. And launch team, we're coming up on T-minus 14 minutes. We'll be polling for our final countdown in about a minute and a half.
Just to highlight some upcoming milestones, about 12 minutes from launch, flight controllers will conduct a poll to proceed with the final launch countdown. And about 5 minutes from launch, the vehicle will switch to internal power. Then just about 3 minutes and 30 seconds before launch, auto sequence handoff for terminal countdown will be initiated, and that will mark the time the computers take over for the final milestones before launch.
054, 055, 056.
LC CMD on countdown 1. Stand by, CMD.
And so those constraints will be waived from 4,000 to 3,850.
And go ahead, CMD.
Yeah, CMD. Cygnus is in launch mode and nominal.
Roger that. We'll check 407 complete. And launch team LC on countdown 1 with poll to proceed with final countdown. GSO.
GSO go.
RSL.
RSOs go.
TD.
TDs go.
Prop lead.
Prop leads go.
Stage 1.
Stand by, LC.
MES1.
MES1 go.
GCE.
GCs go. Sorry.
Aces go. Mars.
Mars is go.
CMD.
CMD is go.
And LD.
I'd like to hear from stage 1 first.
Yep,
Stage
stand
1
by.
is go.
Stage 1 is go.
LD is go.
NG.
Northrop Grumman is proud to honor accomplished NASA astronaut and the first Asian American in space, Ellison Onizuka. In our current challenging times, we reflect on Ellison's inspirational words. The people that make the world run, whose names will go down in the history books, are not the cynics, the critics, or the armchair quarterbacks. They are the adventurists, the explorers, and the doers of the world. When they see a wrong or a problem, they do something about it. When they see a vacant place in our knowledge, they work to fill the void. And today, we will do just that. Aloha to the SS Ellison Onizuka. Northrop Grumman is go for launch.
And I copy. We're go to proceed with final countdown. Check 407. Fly high, Ethan. Ops 2, step 408. You go to start engine evacuation.
LC Ops 2, engine evacuation started.
And you just heard the poll to proceed with the final countdown to launch, and all teams are polling a go. And, of course, a tribute to Ellison Onizuka, who this Cygnus spacecraft is dedicated after. Now coming up on 10 minutes away from launch, and everything is still proceeding smoothly for launch at 5:01 and 5 seconds p.m. Central Time, 6:01 and 5 seconds p.m. Eastern Time.
Passing T-minus 10 minutes.
Once we get to that launch time today, the first thing that will occur is the Stage 1 ignition, and you'll see liftoff just a few seconds after that, and those main two engines will burn for about 3 minutes and 18 seconds before cutting off, and Stage 1 will separate. Cygnus will coast for a bit until fairing separation, when the external cover that protects the spacecraft during launch will separate. The interstage adapter that connects the first and second stages will separate at about 4 minutes into flight, and then Stage 2 ignition, which is that solid rocket fuel that will burn for 2 minutes and 45 seconds. Once the second stage burns out, we'll be listening for a call of orbital insertion at 6 minutes and 52 seconds after launch. The vehicle will coast for 2 minutes before Cygnus separation at 9 minutes and 9 seconds after liftoff. And at the time of launch, the International Space Station will be flying 260 statute miles over the southern Indian Ocean.
ACS VDMs enabled, voltage nominal, ODM commands clear.
And a copy all, check 410 and check 411. Step 412 not required for today's operation.
Now just about 8 minutes and 30 seconds to launch. Again, that next milestone we'll hear will be for the vehicle to be turned to internal power at 5 minutes out.
And we're at T-minus 8 minutes.
LC site control, GN2 conditioning initiated.
And I copy GN2 conditioning initiated. Passing T-minus 7 minutes.
Come back up in 4 minutes. Will you be ready to roll?
Now inside 7 minutes, you've been hearing teams running through some of these final milestones, and the internal power has been activated. Again, it'll be switched over to internal power at the 5-minute mark.
Copy. And when you come back up in 4 minutes, will you be ready to roll?
Hope so. Stand by.
Okay, copy that.
LC prop lead, DTSO activation verified.
Roger that. Check 414. Ops 2, initialize ground ordnance power supplies.
LC Ops 2, ground ordnance power supplies initialized.
Ground ordnance power supplies nominal.
Check 415 and 416.
LC site control, F-Bay ECS transfer to GN2 confirmed.
Copy that, site control. Check 417.
T-minus 5 minutes. Ops 2, you're good. Initiate engine prime.
Engine priming started.
Ops 1, transfer avionics to internal power.
Okay, Ops 1, all internal power on. Stand by 5.
T-minus 5 minutes. Ops 2, you're good. Initiate engine priming.
Engine priming started.
Ops 1, transfer avionics to internal power. Ops 1, open FTS umbi-loop.
LC Ops 1, all internal power on. Stand by 5.
LCLI 2.
And all external power off.
Receiver indications are nominal.
Check 422. Ops 1, send alarm.
Internal power is nominal.
Ops 1, open FTS umbi-loop.
FTS umbi loop open and green.
SNAs, ODMs, all armed. Copy that.
You just heard those calls to initiate internal power for the vehicle, so internal power is now on, and all systems are still proceeding on track for launch just 4 minutes from now.
3, 2, 1, mark. Arm command sent.
SNAs, ODMs, all armed.
Copy that.
LCMES 1, step 426, priming verify.
Copy that. Check 426 complete. T-minus 4 minutes. And TD, I'll wait for your report on range status.
LCTD, we are green. LCMES 1, step 426, priming verify.
Copy that. Check 426 complete. Not required. Phase 3 dynamic limits will be active at T-minus 3 minutes. And TD, I'll wait for your report on range status.
LCTD, we are green.
Copy, range green. Check 425. FC commanded to flight mode. Step 427, not required. Phase 3 dynamic limits will be active at T-minus 3 minutes.
Auto sequence start.
LCTD, we're green for all systems. Green for all systems.
FC commanded to flight mode.
Nominal. Check 429. Copy. TD will check 430, 431. GNC 1. Verify ready for nav mode.
Auto sequence start.
Ops 2, step 433, switch to nav.
LCTD, we're green for all systems. Green for all systems.
ODM bus voltages and currents nominal.
Copy, LEC 1, and I copy. TD will check 430, 431. GNC 1. Verify ready for nav mode.
LC, GNC 1, orb nav ready for nav.
Ops 2, step 433, switch to nav.
LC Ops 2, orb nav, switch to navigate.
2 minutes and 30 seconds to launch, still counting down to that exact liftoff time at 5:01 and 5 seconds p.m. Central Time, 6:01 and 5 seconds p.m. Eastern Time. Tanks will be pressurized at about the T-minus 40 seconds until liftoff, and we'll be counting down to liftoff from there.
This is just a reminder that there's about a 25 to 36 second latency in actual events here at Wallops and what you are seeing on the stream. So you take that into account when you go out and watch the
T-minus 2 minutes. Mark. Passing through T-minus 1 minute, 30 seconds. Passing through T-minus 1 minute, 30 seconds. T-minus 1 minute. Mark. T-minus 1 minute. Mark. T-minus 30 seconds. Mark.
.40 seconds until liftoff.
T-minus 30 seconds. Mark. T-minus 10. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. T-minus 10. We have engine ignition.
Main engine start.
5,
And we have
4,
liftoff at
3,
Antares for
2,
NG-16
1.
The Wallops Flight Facility.
We have engine ignition.
Main engine start. And we have liftoff of Antares for the NG-16 mission, the Wallops Flight Facility. Engines at 100%. Attitude nominal.
The SS Ellison Onizuka now on its way to the International Space Station to deliver more than 8,200 pounds of cargo. Good first stage performance so far.
AV and power subsystems are nominal. NG-16, all systems are nominal. Engines at 100%. Stage 1 burn is approximately 3 minutes 18 seconds. Currently at 5 seconds. Duration of stage 1 burn is approximately 3 minutes and 18 seconds. Currently at 65 seconds. Passing max Q. Passing through 40,000 feet, passing max Q.
First stage now passing through the area of maximum dynamic pressure.
Continue to perform as expected. Passing 70,000 feet.
Again, this first stage will burn for about 3 minutes and 18 seconds until main engine cutoff.
All subsystems continue to perform as expected. Time plus 100. Passing 70,000 feet. Mission time plus 110 seconds. Engines continue at 100%. Core pressures nominal. All vehicle subsystems nominal. Passing 120,000 feet. Engines continue at 100%. Core pressures nominal. All vehicle subsystems nominal. Passing 120,000 feet.
2 minutes, 20 seconds into flight, everything still proceeding nominal.
1 more minute. Attitude nominal. All G&C performance as expected. Attitude nominal. All G&C performance as expected. Performance continues nominal. Throttle down to 80%. And Terry's performance continues nominal. Throttle down to 80%.
Throttling down 3 minutes into flight, main engine cutoff coming soon.
All systems nominal. Throttle down to 55%. Stage 1 MECO. All systems nominal. And Terry's will coast until the conditions are met for interstage and fairing separation. Then stage 1 MECO.
We have main engine cutoff and Terry's entering into a coast stage, standing by for stage 1 separation.
Then stage 2 ignition.
Stage 1 separation confirmed.
And Terry's is in coast phase. Attitude nominal. Fairing separation. Interstage and Terry's is in coast phase. Attitude nominal. And we have fairing separation.
Fairing separation confirmed.
Stage 2 will burn for roughly 2 minutes and 30 seconds. All systems continue nominal. And we have stage 2 ignition. Stage 2 will burn for roughly 2 minutes and 30 seconds. All systems continue nominal. Passing 130 kilometers. Systems continue to perform as expected.
Stage 2 ignition is confirmed. Stage 2 is that solid rocket fuel that will burn for about 2 minutes and 45 seconds. Burnout will come at 6 minutes and 52 seconds into the flight today. And as we lose sight of the vehicle, we're now switching to animation.
4.5 kilometers per second. Altitude approaching 140 kilometers. Stage 2 burn continues. All systems nominal. Approaching 150 kilometers.
Now 5 minutes into flight, everything proceeding smoothly.
Stage 2 burn continues. All systems nominal. Approaching 150 kilometers in altitude. Stage 2, all systems are nominal. Stage 2, all systems are nominal. Approximately 1 minute to stage 2 burnout. Approximately 1 minute to stage 2 burnout. 70 kilometers. All systems continue to perform as expected. Altitude 170 kilometers. All systems continue to perform as expected. Approximately 30 seconds to stage 2 burnout. Approximately 30 seconds to stage 2 burnout. Stage 2 burnout. All systems nominal. Antares will coast for approximately 2 minutes till spacecraft separation. Stage 2 burnout. All systems nominal.
And stage 2 burnout is confirmed.
Antares will coast for approximately 2 minutes till spacecraft separation. Antares is in orbit. Altitude nearly 180 kilometers. Attitude nominal. Attitude nominal. Antares continues to orient and prepare for spacecraft separation in a little more than 1 minute. Attitude nominal. Antares continues to orient and prepare for spacecraft separation in a little more than 1 minute. All subsystems nominal. All subsystems nominal. Altitude 179 kilometers. Roughly 30 seconds to spacecraft separation. Altitude 179 kilometers. Roughly 30 seconds to spacecraft separation.
Standing by for spacecraft separation.
Attitude nominal. And we have spacecraft separation. Go Cygnus. Attitude nominal. And we have spacecraft separation. Go Cygnus.
Spacecraft separation confirmed, and Cygnus has separated from the second stage. And Northrop Grumman teams now celebrating the confirmation of spacecraft separation.
LC with that, flyout calls are completed.
Copy that, Ace. Okay, launch team, let's maintain protocol on station here. We're in our post-launch checklist.
And that concludes today's coverage of Dr. Grumman's Antares rocket launch
is in progress.
With the Cygnus spacecraft carrying supplies to the International
GNC1, I'll
Space
wait for your
Station.
call on status.
As you
for
heard,
step
it was a good launch
Stay back
today. And the next step is for the Cygnus for solar array deployment.
And site
Next
control
launch
set
of
446. You can
Antares
remove
from here at
aft
Wallops
AGN2
is
flow and
scheduled
reconfigure
for
ECS
early
to post-launch.
2022. And the next
Mark.
rocket launch from here at Wallops
Core 1
occurs
LC.
on
Step
August
447,
19th
direct personnel to
at
power
5
off the
p.m.
MS
with a
ground
window that
equipment
runs till
and
8:30
report
p.m. This will
when
be
complete.
a standing rocket
Yeah, copy that,
carrying
LC. We'll get that
Malamute
marked once
carrying the
personnel can
RocketSat
return to the
educational
LEV.
payload.
Yep, copy that.
Backup launch
And
days for
right,
that
same thing
launch
for
will be
448. Understood.
August 20th and 21st. So this is Wallops Range Control Center. Thanks for joining us today.
With that confirmation of successful orbital insertion, Cygnus is now on its way to the International Space Station, where it will arrive in 2 days on Thursday, August 12th, to deliver more than 8,200 pounds of cargo. Back with us now from Northrop Grumman is Antares System Engineering Program Manager Christina Halona. Christina, what will the Northrop Grumman teams in Dulles do here on the ground between now until Cygnus arrives to the space station?
Yeah, so the Northrop Grumman teams in Dulles has quite a few things that they'll be doing. So they operate the Cygnus spacecraft basically now that we have been released from Antares rocket. So from separation from separation to destructive reentry at the end of the mission, the Dulles team performs various operations, including, initial vehicle configuration following insertion orbit, which include priming the propulsion system. They'll also have the solar array deployment as well that will be happening here with you soon here in about an hour, hour and a half. And then they'll also be planning and executing various maneuvers to change Cygnus's orbit to rendezvous to the ISS. So that'll be continually changing throughout their maneuvers to get to the laboratory. And then there's also vehicle system checkout. So we continue to monitor the spacecraft as well to make sure it's healthy and everything is looking great on the spacecraft. And then at the end, they'll finally perform vehicle configurations to perform the final rendezvous as they arrive to the ISS.
And looking forward to Cygnus departure in November, Cygnus will perform some secondary operations. Can you go over some of those?
Yeah, so Cygnus actually has 2 secondary mission objectives for this NG-16 mission. After it departs from the International Space Station, there's one that is a passive payload from NASA called CREPI, and it stands for Kentucky Reentry Probe Experiment, and the payload will be loaded into the pressurized volume of the Cygnus with the disposable cargo items. And then the other payload is PURPLE, which is short for Prototype Infrared Payload. Purple is a Northrop Grumman built payload and will be tested and calibrated on while Cygnus is burst to the ISS. And the Purple payload actually requires 23 days of operations following departure to perform data collections and data downlink. So we still have those 2 missions to complete after we are unberthed from the ISS. So Cygnus has a lot of work of it ahead until here in November.
Thanks, Christina. Again, we are looking forward to welcoming Cygnus to the International Space Station, and thanks again for joining us.
Of course, thank you.
And now joining us is NASA Systems Engineering Integration Office Manager Jeff Arend. Jeff, how important are these resupply missions in terms of the continuing resupply of this station and the science they deliver to the crew on board?
So I guess first off, hi, Courtney. But these commercial resupply missions are very important to continue the advancing science on board the station. Over 3,000 experiments have been conducted during the station's lifetime, which we're now coming up on 21 years of continuous human presence. On this flight, Cygnus is packed with more than 3,700 kilos of supplies, research, technology demonstrations, and hardware. In the tech demo category, we're really excited to add the 4-bed CO2 scrubber. It's an upgraded version of Seadra, which is our primary CO2 removal system on board. And for hardware upgrades, we're equally excited to be flying the 3rd IROSA mod kit, which will enable a future solar array upgrade in the future.
All right, and what's ahead for the crew on station once Cygnus arrives in terms of capture, cargo operations, and science?
So the Cygnus spacecraft will arrive at space station in a couple days, Thursday, August 12th at approximately 5:10 Central Time. NASA astronaut Megan McArthur will be primed to capture the spacecraft with the Canadarm2, and she's backed up by ESA astronaut Thomas Pesquet. Following capture, the flight controllers in Houston will command the installation of Cygnus on the Earth-facing side of the Unity module, will it remain for about 3 months. The crew will stay busy unpacking and conducting these research activities with the first several days being extremely critical for several experiments. The ones in particular are cardinal muscle, anti-atrophy, and cell gravesensing. The crew will also be preparing for a future spacewalk to install the mod kit on the P4 truss to prepare the station for that future solar array upgrade that I mentioned earlier. In addition to upgrading the ISS power, these arrays are also helping us prove the solar array technology that will be used on the gateway around the moon with the Artemis program. So overall, very, very exciting times for us.
Exciting indeed, Jeff. As always, thanks for your time and thanks for joining us today.
Yeah, appreciate it, Courtney. Thank you very much.
Of the launch window after teams detected an apparent helium pressurization valve leak on the vehicle. The issue was quickly resolved and Cygnus lifted off from NASA's Wallops Flight Facility in Wallops Island, Virginia at the Mid-Atlantic Regional Spaceport Pad 0A on time at 5:01 and 5 seconds p.m. Central Time, 6:01 and 5 seconds p.m. Eastern Time to begin its journey to the International Space Station, where it will deliver more than 8,200 pounds of research, crew supplies, and hardware. At the time of launch, the International Space Station was flying 260 statute miles over the southern Indian Ocean. It's after launch, so within the next hour, if all goes as planned, Cygnus will complete its solar array deployment, which will take about 30 minutes. So we will not be on air for that milestone, but once that activity is complete, we will update the station webpage on nasa.gov. We will not be on air for that milestone, but once that activity is complete, we will update the station webpage on nasa.gov. With Cygnus now on its way to the International Space Station, we hope you'll join us back on air when Cygnus arrives to the station in the early morning on Thursday, August 12th. NASA television coverage for Cygnus arrival and capture will begin at 3:45 a.m. Central Time, 4:45 a.m. Eastern Time. For capture around 5:10 a.m. Central Time, 6:10 a.m. Eastern Time. And then we'll be back on air at 7 a.m. Central, 8 a.m. Eastern for Cygnus installation operations coverage. With Cygnus now on its way to the International Space Station to deliver more than 8,200 pounds of cargo, that'll wrap up our coverage for today. This is Mission Control Houston.